the Nonprofit Podcast, powered by DonorBox.
Acknowledgments aren't just a nice gesture. They're really the foundation of a robust, enduring relationship with your donors. We often make them way more difficult than they need to be. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Cara, fundraising coach at DonorBox. We're here each week with practical actions you can use today to increase donations and take your nonprofit to the next level tomorrow. On last week's episode, Jenna made a strong case for donor stewardship as the key to keeping this year's donors around and giving to your organization next year. Today, we journey through the strategies and tactics that turn ordinary acknowledgments into powerful catalysts for donor retention and organizational success. But why are they so important? Let's start there. Let's talk about a problem that's haunting many nonprofits, and that's donor retention. The statistics are alarming. For every 10 new donors your organization gets, more than 8 of them walk away and never come back. And a significant chunk of overall donors are lost year after year. And it's an epidemic that demands our attention. But here's the solution, and that's donor stewardship. And donor stewardship is anchored in acknowledgments, your donor thank you letters. Acknowledgments aren't just paperwork. They're the cornerstone of stewardship, and they're the reason we're here today. So we're going to delve deep into acknowledgments and equip you with some actionable ideas you can use today. Before we dive into acknowledgments, though, let's grasp the fundraising cycle. It's really the fundamental ABCs of effective fundraising, and our DonorBox team created the 5 A's of awesome fundraising as really just an easy way to remember this important fundraising fundamental. The 5 A's involve attracting, asking, acknowledging, accounting, and then repeating the cycle again and again. And mastering this will really fortify relationships with donors and foster those long-term connections you're looking for. And so today we're going to talk about my favorite A, and that is acknowledgments. Acknowledgments shouldn't be just routine. They should exude warmth and sincerity. You know, they often take the form of letters or emails, but they can be creative gestures too, notes and videos, social media shout-outs, or even a heartfelt phone call. But let's clear a common misperception, though, first. Some people confuse receipts and acknowledgments, and receipts and acknowledgments are not the same. Receipts are transactional. They confirm the donation. In contrast, acknowledgments are personal expressions of gratitude. It's less like a grocery store receipt and more like a warm note to your favorite aunt after she sends you a gift. And it all starts with the all-important donor thank you note. Okay, donor acknowledgments. Why are they so crucial? Well, they're more than just a checkbox on your to-do list. Sometimes they get overlooked in the hustle and bustle of our everyday. They are really a chance to cultivate a strong relationship with your donors. Think of them as a heartbeat of your organization. They're nurturing trust and loyalty and a sense of community. It's about a culture of gratitude in your organization. Penelope Burke authored a book some time ago called Donor-Centered Fundraising, and it's one of my all-time favorites. If you don't have it on your bookshelf, you should, but Penelope Burke's research provides some insights into what makes a thank you letter not just good, but exceptional. And she says it's all about personalization, about avoiding requests for further donations within that thank you note, and acknowledging how the gift impacts the cause. So your goal with these thank you letters, with these acknowledgments, are crafting letters that feel tailor-made for your donors. And good acknowledgments don't necessarily need to be high budget or overly processed. And here are some examples of some budget-friendly, authentic pieces that made a big impact. First, I received a handwritten note when I made my first gift to a nonprofit, and then they followed it up with a postcard sometime around the third quarter of the calendar year before that year-end giving campaign kicked in. And that postcard showed some impact. It really expressed some gratitude. It showed what happened because donors gave. And then they followed up my year-end gift with a nice New Year's email that showed how my gift was put into action right when they needed it most at year-end. So here's a tip. Here's some homework, if you will. Do you have a standard acknowledgement or donor thank you letter? If so, print it out on paper. Before you read through it, think of one of your supporters you know personally. Maybe it's your large donors, or maybe it's a regular donor. Have that person in mind when you read it. And then read through that acknowledgement. Is it personal enough? Is it too generic? Does it have a lot of corporate speak that maybe they wouldn't understand unless they were like right in the middle of your organization? Read it from your supporter's perspective. All right, we have some do's and some don'ts. So here's a do. First thing you should do is respond to every gift, regardless of the amount. There's a tendency to recognize larger gifts with maybe more information or more gratitude. And the argument is that it takes more work. Large donors should receive special communication. But in reality, we have to use communication practices like this for donors of all sizes if we want to retain them. Donor retention is key here, right? If we want to earn their loyalty year after year and see their giving increase year after year. This example really reminded me of something that my daughter received after she made her first $15 gift. She received a handwritten note from the director, and she looked at me and she said, it's $15, right? Not like $1,500? But she was right. It was, and they nailed it, and they made her feel really, really special. She is Gen Z, and she was actually delighted to receive something in the mail. And I worked with another large, nationally recognized nonprofit that only sent anything to donors that gave over $250 as it was required by law. But they wrestled with growing a culture of giving within their nonprofit. And this, in my opinion, was the number one thing they needed to fix. They were focusing on the transaction of the gift, not reinforcing the behavior of giving. Now, let's go on to our next do. Here is another do. Keep the copy informal. Acknowledgments should be written from one person to another person. They really resonate with readers when they sound just like the person who wrote it. I received one in my inbox that says, "Y'all donated so much. Holy cow." And then it told me all the awesome things that happened as a result of giving to this organization. It was really well done, and it sounded just like the executive director who wrote that email. I also have a few don'ts. And these are some pitfalls to really sidestep in acknowledgments. First, don't overthink. I see a lot of, "Thank you for your generous donation of $25. Well, then what do you say when they give $2,500? You might be limiting your supporters' generosity. They might just be dipping their toes in their water with this $25 gift to you and think, well, if that's generous, I'll just keep giving $25. Try using some words like thoughtful or kind instead of generous. This way that you talk about the act of giving, and the act of giving was thoughtful or it was maybe kind, and you're not focusing on the amount or the transaction. Generous means very different things to different people. So I encourage you to avoid using the term generous. Another don't I have is don't write on behalf of the organization or on behalf of your board of directors. I have one letter that I hold on to show for this example alone. And it says, "On behalf of our board of directors and 300 children, thank you." This letter was written by one person. One person signed that letter, and they could have made it way more personal by saying, "I noticed you gave your first gift. Thank you." Person to person. Because I guarantee those 300 children and the 9 board members have no idea that I even made a gift. And my last don't focus solely on money or inadvertently asking for more within your acknowledgement or your thank you note. That really values the transaction of the gift more than that relationship with the giver. Be sure to focus on the act of giving, the behavior, and the person who made the gift. Those are some pitfalls that can really dilute the sincerity of your acknowledgments. So now that we have all those tips and tactics in place, I'll mention that successful stewardship depends strongly on structure. And creating a stewardship plan helps you stay on top of those acknowledgments and stay on top of them consistently. So you're identifying donors, you're outlining stewardship actions, assigning responsibilities, and setting some time to actually work on them. And that is really instrumental into creating that culture of gratitude, that culture of stewardship within your nonprofit. And that's going to make all the difference, especially going into the new year. And if you would like some inspiration, we have a guide to writing donor thank you letters. It has some handy thank you note starters, and it is waiting in the show notes for you. This guide will help you break the mold of starting your notes with "thank you for your generous gift of," just like everybody else is doing. And it will really help you stand out from the crowd. Remember, stewardship isn't a chore. It's a celebration of what your donors have helped you achieve. And a good thank you letter is the anchor of your stewardship program. So embrace it, schedule it into your routine, and keep refining your approach. As we wrap up this week's episode, we want to sincerely thank you for spending a little of your valuable time this season with the Nonprofit Podcast. I hope you've left with the confidence to take a small step today that will make a big difference tomorrow. Be sure to click the download button on your podcast player, then leave the Nonprofit Podcast a review, or give it a thumbs up if you're listening to the Nonprofit Podcast on YouTube. Your review really is a great way to help others find us. You're here to help others. We're here to help you. So until next time, stay inspired.
That warm feeling when you help someone, it's not just happiness, it's fulfillment. And we believe it should be available to everyone, from frontline heroes to first-time fundraisers. Our tools empower you to help others. This is our mission. This is DonorBox, helping you help others.